Okay. Test. Hello, everybody. Oh my gosh, this is my this is my first time ever doing a video recording, and it's it's really weird to see myself. I'm so used to just doing audio, and yeah, I'm just not used to like seeing myself. Um, but if you're watching, this is my new apartment. Um, it's actually like a pretty good backdrop for this. So thank you, Lord, for that. For real though, like I could not have done this without him. Like I would not be in this apartment without him. Like seriously, like it would not be this would not be a thing. This is only him, and because he trusts me with this space, which I literally just feel so blessed. But anyways, I gotta give you guys an update. The last week has just been so insane. Let's see, where do I want to start? So last time I talked to you guys, also today is not Saturday. I'm off schedule a little bit just because like my schedule has been off with just like getting settled in and things like that. So yeah, today is Monday. I don't know now that I'm adding the video, like what editing is going to look like and stuff like that. So I don't know if we're going to keep Saturdays. So things like scheduling wise are kind of up in the air. But once something is like set in stone, like you guys will know. But yeah, the schedule might be off a little bit right now. Oh, I think Clemmy's coming up. Yay! Hi, Clem. You guys can see her now too. Hi. She wanted to make an appearance. She's looking. Oh, Clem. You want to come lay down? Anyways, but yeah, so let's see. Tuesday was the day that the movers came and that they moved all my stuff into Tuesday was a big day because that was the day all my stuff was moved into the truck and I got the U-Haul. And then Tuesday was also the day that I sold my car. So Tuesday started with me going to get the U-Haul. That was the very first thing that I did was I had to go pick that up. And driving that thing was a little crazy. I was definitely like, it took some getting used to, but I also just like it was so funny to me to like think of me just like this not little girl, but like, you know, short little petite young woman like driving a big old U-Haul by myself. Like just the image of that is just funny to me. So I picked up the U-Haul and then the movers came and moved everything out and into the truck. And yeah, that was just like definitely a lot of emotions for sure. Just of like seeing like again the realization of okay, this is actually happening. Yeah, and just seeing the place that I'd been for the last 2.5 years, like everything coming out and it being back to the way that it was when I first moved in. And that definitely brought up some grief too with like my mom and yeah, just like thinking that she was at the beginning of this chapter but not now she wasn't at the end of that chapter, and like she was there, you know, when I first went into the apartment and we got furniture together and stuff like that. So that definitely brought up a lot of grief, just like seeing this chapter really come to a close, thinking about everything that had happened the last 2.5 years in that space. Yeah, it was definitely a lot emotionally. Not like, I don't know. I thought I would be expressing those emotions more so. Like I thought I was going to be like crying more and things like that, but I didn't really like cry. I think just because I've had so much hurt in that space, I was ready. But yeah, so then after everything was moved out, I went and sold my car, which that also brought up just some emotions and stuff too. Um just with like even mom, and getting rid of the car. She was there when I first got the car. Like we got it together, and yeah, again just her like not being here on like the other end of these things, if that makes sense. Definitely brought up some grief, and even just the fact of like selling my car, like that's a pretty big deal. So like selling my car, and again it just made everything more real. And I kind of had a little bit of a freak out moment at the CarMax. I feel like every time I've done something really big, I've had like these brief freak out moments. So like with like putting my resignation in at work, like I told you guys, I like blacked out. Like I like freaked out. And then with what was the other thing? Oh, on my last day. I had a hard time on my last day. And then selling the car, I had a little bit of a hard time too. I wasn't like crying or anything. It's like every freak out moment has been like less and less intense, I would say, but still having these little freak out moments. And yeah, I had this just like freak out moment as they were getting all the paperwork, and I had pulled my car in, and I was just sitting there and being like, dang, like this car's really not going to be mine anymore. And like I'd had this car for 6 years, and just thinking of the last 6 years, I'm just very sentimental. So just thinking about all that stuff. But yeah, and then walking out of the CarMax was kind of crazy. It like hit me like, okay, yeah, you don't have a car anymore for transportation, because I had to walk to the bank. Thankfully it was walking distance, because usually I would drive, and Fredericksburg is not walkable at all unless you're like downtown. That's it. But like to get to a bank, like in a shopping center, it's not walkable. And I was like, shoot, my only options are to Uber or to walk down to the bank right now. And the Uber was just like not worth it for the price and the time I had to wait. So I ended up just walking. It was just weird of like, okay, this is like my only option. Which was like, it was just a really weird realization. But yeah, so then Tuesday night, I slept on an air mattress for the last time in that apartment. And then Wednesday was the day that I left and drove out. So we did, when I say we, I mean me and the cats. It ended up being a lot longer. It was supposed to be like 8.5, but it ended up being like 10 hours with stops. And that drive was like actually kind of crazy. So for like 40 miles at one point, I'm literally driving over like mountains. Like if any of you guys are listening from like back home, it's like driving over mountains, like when you're driving over the mountain, like to go over to Charlottesville or something like that. Even worse than that, because it was a single lane road. Like it was crazy. In this U-Haul driving that, I had to go so slow. It was 40 miles of that, and the whole time poor little Pebbles is like meowing, which was just like not what I needed. So that was a lot. And then once I got over all the mountain driving, then it started snowing. So that was crazy. And then there was rain at one point too. And then I also just had to stop a lot. One, for gas, because that thing goes through gas like crazy, and gas is expensive. Well, it was expensive because that thing took so much gas. It was insane. It was like if I was down to a quarter of a tank left, it was like $80 to fill up. It was crazy. And I'm used to like my little sedan that I had before, which, only held like 13 gallons and it was like $35. But so that I was like, oh gosh. So I had to do that multiple times. But then also, like, when I would get gas, it honestly was kind of like right on cue with Pebbles needing a break. She would be fine for a while, like when I would give meds and stuff like that. I actually gave both her and Clementine meds for the trip just so like everyone was good. But yeah, so she would start after like, I don't know, hour and a half, 2 hours, like start constantly meowing. And like I would just see the little like carrier like shifting and moving. Like she was trying to bust out of that thing. So whenever we would get gas, I would like go sit in the passenger seat and let her like come out and get a break for a little bit. So that like also tacked on time. So I'm really glad I didn't end up doing the whole thing in one day, because that was my original plan, and there's just like there was no way it would have worked. So yeah, then we get to the hotel, and yeah, this was the cat's first time in a hotel, and they did fine. Pebbles was more fine. She's a lot more like exploratory, and like even though she'll be anxious, she does a little bit better in new environments. Where Clementine, poor little Clementine, even though like I had a litter box and their food and their water, like she somehow found a spot. I think because it was a pet friendly hotel, like another cat had like busted into the bed frame and like she was like getting under the bed frame, and then Pebbles would start following her, and then poor little Clem, I ended up putting like towels that smelled like our house in their carriers just to make them feel a little bit more calm. And poor little Clemmy, even with the litter box, because that was what smelled like home and felt more like a comfort, she ended up peeing. Thankfully, it was just on the towel and didn't get in the carrier, but on the towel. So things were just like, that was just a little crazy. And then Thursday, that was the day that we did the rest of the drive. So that was 4 hours. That drive was fine, and then I got here and the movers unpacked and everything, and honestly the last few days that's what I've been doing, has just been like really settling in and unpacking and things like that. And God is so insane because his timing is just so perfect, because I remember like when I was going to book the U-Haul, I was like, shoot, like I don't know, like what date do I want to do? And there was something, this was like, I don't know, end of December. And I could just feel that the Lord was telling me the 21st, for whatever reason, was the day I was going to leave. I don't know. I didn't know why, but I was just like, okay, the 21st. Now it makes sense because the whole East Coast had this crazy snowstorm. And we ended up getting snow here in Chicago, too. We weren't really supposed to get snow, but we ended up getting snow. And also just the temperatures were freezing too. So I got here on Thursday. Friday, the feel like here was -30. So like the fact that I have to move in that, and then the snow came Saturday, over the weekend, like Saturday and Sunday, and the fact that I have to do it in that, it was just like such perfect timing and like just so God. And I just think of that because I remember being like, okay, the 21st, like all right. And now that I'm here, it makes sense. But yeah, the first day I was here, I had like boxes surrounded and things like that, and I was just laying on my couch like in awe, looking out my window, because I hadn't been here before, and I had seen from pictures and things like that, and I knew it was going to be a really pretty view, but then when I got here, I was like, it was better than I even could have imagined. And it's just the way God like knows. He just knows exactly. I can't even put words to it. He's just so good. He's just so good. And this place is literally like such an answered prayer. It's just such an answered prayer, like with the specifics, but also just like, I don't know if I've gone into details with you guys about it, but I can't remember if I've talked about this in a previous episode before or not. If you guys haven't like learned with me, I have a tendency to like repeat myself sometimes with like connecting pieces. So if you guys have heard this before, sorry. But there was one time I went to Mass no, it wasn't Mass, it was Adoration back in Fredericksburg. And I literally just like, I was definitely like feeling weird about asking for like worldly things, if that makes sense. But it wasn't me just coming out of a place, I've definitely talked about this before, definitely coming out of a place of like, well, I want this just because I want it type thing. Like, I was asking for these things in order to, it's because like I was asking for these things because it would like, it had to do with like my relationship with God, if that makes sense. So like, for example, like I specifically prayed for floor to ceiling windows because I was like, Lord, I want to be surrounded by your light. Or like when I was in my hotel, I could see the John Hancock building from my hotel, and like that was just a big grounding point when I was there, and I was like in awe. And I was like, God, if you can do this with a hotel, like I would love if, my apartment could have the view of that building too, because it'll also remind me of you and our first trip out here, like when I stayed in the hotel. And my apartment has that view. I've definitely talked about this on here, but that's okay. And just even like the corner unit, because like I wanted a space now to start like introducing like video to the podcast, and it's just like, oh, it's just like such an answered prayer. And even like the location of things, like, and it's so crazy too, because this is like what I've always wanted, even though I didn't realize it. Like, I remember back when I was like, I don't know, 18, 19 years old, I always was like, oh, it'd be so cool to live in a city with like public transit. And I don't know, but I didn't know like where I wanted to go. I hadn't like been enough places or anything like that. And even just as I was like walking around yesterday, I was thinking like, gosh, like you've been here the whole time, even though like I wasn't in relationship with you when I was having those thoughts. You were still there the whole time, and you've known the desires of my hearts my whole life, And it just like, it just put things into perspective for me a little bit. But yeah, but something else I've also been struggling with a little bit too is just, I don't know, I've been feeling like guilt that the Lord has blessed me. I don't know. I've just been like, I talked to my therapist about this during our last appointment last week too, just like how I've been feeling a lot of guilt that the Lord has blessed me. And just that, I don't know. I think I'm feeling guilty that like the Lord has blessed me with something, with this space, and I'm so grateful for it, and so grateful that He has gifted it to me, and like trusts me with a space like this. But like in my mind, I'm like, well, God, there's so many other people that are like struggling, and like, I don't know, I'm just like feeling guilt in that sense. And when I talked to my therapist about this, she was like, okay, you might not struggle in this sense, like maybe like in regards to like finances and stuff, but you struggle with a lot of other things. Like everyone's cross is going to be different. Everyone's cross to bear is going to be different in this life. And mine maybe isn't financial, but it's definitely like mental health stuff and Yeah. That's the big one. That is the big one. Mental health is like my major cross to bear in this life, you know? And yeah, she just like really had to put that into perspective. And then she like also brought up too, like, do you not think that, or she asked me, she was like, do you feel like you're deserving of this? And I think that's also part of it too, is like struggling to believe that I'm actually deserving of something like this and like to be blessed like this. And I think part of it too is because sometimes like in Christianity we can be taught like suffer, you should always be suffering, be humble, like I don't know, I've just been really struggling with that a little bit of like feeling that guilt of that blessing. But like I also like the Lord doesn't want me, he wants me to embrace his gift and not sit in guilt about it because I didn't do this, he did it, you know? And like he gets the glory because of this, obviously. Like it's not like I'm just like I did this, blah 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 blah. This is like, this isn't about me. This is all about giving the Lord glory. And he gets glory with this space. And the fact that he's trusting me with this space too, you know, like he wouldn't have given me a space like this if he didn't feel he could trust me with it to be like responsible with it, if that makes sense. And yeah, it's just been crazy. Like I'm just in awe of being here and like what the Lord is just doing in my life. And even though I still don't know like what's happening job wise, I feel such an immense amount of peace just being here. Like it's just, I just know like this is the Lord's will. This is just such his will. And I'm just so happy, literally, to be here. Like, literally so happy to be here. But something I wanted to read was scripture that I have been leaning on. Hold on. So I read from Matthew. Oh no, that was on TikTok. That I read from Matthew 6. Oh no, wait, this is Matthew 7 I'm going to be reading from. But it's Matthew 7 and the title of this is Effective Prayer. And this is something else that a little piece of scripture that I've really been like holding on to and clinging to, just in regards to like my answered prayers and even like what I was clinging on to before my prayers were answered. So this is going to be I'm starting at Matthew 7 verse 7. Keep on asking and you will receive what you ask for. Keep on seeking and you will find. Keep on knocking and the door will be open to you. For everyone who asks receives. Everyone who seeks finds. And to everyone who knocks, the door will be opened. You parents, if your children's, you parents, if your children ask for a loaf of bread, do you give them a stone instead? Or if they ask for a fish, do you give them a snake? Of course not. So if you sinful people know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more will your heavenly Father give good gifts to those who ask him? And that is just something I've been leaning on too, is like the Lord wants to provide for us and he wants to give gifts to us. And it's just like a relationship, any other relationship, you know, like we can't go into the mindset of like asking for things like with the wrong heart posture. You know what I mean? And the Lord knows our hearts. He knows everything deep down. Even if we think we might be in the right heart posture, like he truly knows if we are or not. And like when we ask for things and we have that correct heart posture and that authentic, genuine heart posture, and it gives glory to him and it's not just about us, like he's going to give us those things, and he's going to give us these things because he loves us and he wants to provide for us. So yeah, that's just something I've really been focusing on too. But yeah, so first episode of the new place. I'm so excited to see what the Lord does here. I know he's going to do a lot. I don't know what, but I know he's going to do a lot. And yeah, I'm just really excited for it. And I'm just so blessed to be here. And just so thankful for the Lord and his goodness. But yeah, so I will talk to you guys next week. Bye.